Well, I'm Jackie MacLennan.
And I'm Lou O'Neill. Good morning.
And we are delighted to be here. We have been talking at PILnet over the last day, and we talked over the last year about the problems that are challenging us. The problems of inequality and climate change, the regressing closure of civil society space, the states who are threatening the freedom of the press, the independence of the judiciary, the states who are threatening the freedom of NGOs to operate, and basically threatening the rule of law. But we want to bring a different story today. We want to tell you something which we hope you'll find heartening, and we hope you'll feel that this is good news. And so we want to talk to you about the Kingdom of Bhutan. Bhutan is a tiny country. It's sandwiched between two giant neighbors, China and India, and it's wedged in the Himalayas. Bhutan is a country which is fiercely independent. It was never colonized, and in fact, it was closed to outside influences until about 45 years ago. It's a multi-ethnic and a multilinguistic country. And it is a fascinating place because Bhutan, over the last 10, 12 years, has been changing at a dizzyingly fast pace.
In fact, it's one of the rare things in history where an absolute leader, the king, voluntarily gave up power in favor of democracy, which he himself encouraged. He did this not because of civil unrest or foreign invasion, because it's the right thing to do for his country and for his people. And here you see him abdicating power in 2006 to his son. But at the same time, he created all the institutions of civil society. He supports a free press. Bhutan has 8 independent newspapers and more online. He created independent courts, established a parliament, held practice elections for the population, because there had never been elections in Bhutan, using colors. You vote for the red, you vote for the blue, just to try it. He created a civil service, a royal audit authority, an anti-corruption commission, and set us everything in place for a vigorous and open civil society.
And he introduced a constitution. Now, a constitution for Bhutan is something very new. So a copy of this constitution was sent to every family in the whole country, and they were asked, read this, ask questions about it, comment on it. But the king did more. He was personally involved. And he, and then laterally his son, they went round the country and they held meetings and they discussed the constitution with the people. And this was adopted in 2008. And so the constitution has a very unique feature, and it's a feature that you may well associate with Bhutan because it's been studied in many countries, and that's the Gross National Happiness Index. What is it really? It is the idea that government resources and economic development is all centered on achieving the well-being of the people. And so this is embodied in the Constitution in Article 9. And gross national happiness has been said, actually, by the king to be more important to Bhutan. GHP is more important to Bhutan than GNP. Gross national happiness has 4 pillars, as you can see. A key pillar is conservation of the environment. And you may be interested to know in this time of climate change that Bhutan suffers from too, that the constitution requires Bhutan to ensure that 60% of the land is covered by forest. And that must be part of the constitution and must be an aim for perpetuity. And another feature, another pillar of GHP is good governance, but good governance for the contentment of the people.
And how can you have good governance without having change of power? So in 12 years, we've seen 3 national elections, each time the peaceful transfer of power, and each time a different party taking the reins of government. And as you can see, there's been vigorous interest, vigorous elections, but always civil, always respectful. And people have been lining up every time to vote. And it's a point of pride among the Bhutanese. We just had elections last month, the newest cycle, and the new administration, a new party, is taking the reins of administration. So our journey, our pro bono journey in Bhutan began in 2008 and 9. And it began in Germany, of all places. One of our German partners was vacationing there, and he had a guide, and the guide said, "Oh, you're a lawyer. You know, we don't have a law school, and we have 100 lawyers in the whole country. That's fewer than in this conference, in the whole country. And they all go to school abroad, not in our culture, not in our language." And that made an impression, and the partner told our chairman, Hugh Verrier, here with the Fifth King. And Hugh has a strong vision of pro bono and legal education around the world. So he wrote to the king. He said, "You know, I'm chairman of this firm. We do a lot of pro bono. You don't have a law school. If we can help you, please let us know." King wrote back. He invited Hugh to Bhutan for an audience. They met, they hit it off, and they agreed that we would move forward with this helping them build their first law school. Whoops. Back one, please.
That's it.
So I was dispatched, clearly not competent, to Bhutan for 3 months in 2009 to examine the educational system and the legal system. And I met with just about every one of those 100 lawyers and ministers and foreign aid workers and government officials to figure out what could be done on pro bono and on the law school. And we put together this needs assessment. This is a copy of the report, that's about 100 pages of ideas on what we could do. And just draw your attention to this picture, because it'll be relevant later. This is the largest Buddha in the country under construction in 2009, way above Thimphu in the mountains. We thought this was an apt symbol for the development of civil society in the country.
Now, the first thing that we had to do in building up this project was to develop trust and confidence with the people that we're working with. Because remember, Bhutan was closed for centuries until, as I said, about 45 years ago. Imagine, no radio until the 1970s, no television until the 1990s. So what did we do to start this process of trust building? We worked with the Bhutanese to create the first law library. And here you see someone that some of you may recognize, my predecessor in White and Case as head of the pro bono practice, Ian Forrester, and this is Princess Sonam. She was named by the king, she is the king's sister, she was named by the king to become the president of the future law school. There was a very good reason for this. She is the perfect person for that position because she has a degree in law from Harvard Law School, and she has a real interest and a commitment to legal education. And so she has been instrumental in this project. The law library, as you might imagine, it's stocked with donations of heavy legal tomes. It has codes of other countries which are relevant for Bhutan's understanding of law. It also has Bhutanese legal texts. We received computers. We worked with Westlaw and Lexis to have online research tools. But something a bit more surprising, perhaps, is what you can also find in the law library. And at White and Case, we thought, this is a country where the whole concept of law, the whole role of lawyers is not something which people really understand. So we asked our people, can you think of novels and films which really describe what the law can do and what lawyers should be doing? And as you might not be surprised to know, To Catch a Mockingbird came up, so you can find that on the shelves of the Bhutanese Law Library. So one of the issues that's very special about Bhutan is the fact that every important occasion is celebrated with a beautiful celebration, a beautiful ceremony. And this was the ceremony which celebrated the opening of the law school, the law library. And at the same time as we were working on the law library, we were starting pro bono projects with the Bhutanese. We were working on green energy projects. We were writing codes very much developed for Bhutanese requirements.
We were also building capacity, legal capacity. So this is the High Court, and in the Law Library and in the High Court, we did trainings Again, remember, 100 lawyers, we could train them all, basically, on legal writing, legal research, and we had a special session for the Parliament on legal drafting and how to write good laws and how to write regulations and administer them. And we sent our best people over, head librarian, to do this work. So in this way, we built the trust over a couple of years with our Bhutanese colleagues to think about the next step, which was the law school. And after that time, we were ready to begin. But we needed someone on the ground. It's a big job. It's a long-term project. And so we did a global search for the right person to help us be our man in Bhutan, as it were. And we had a short list of people from Singapore, UK, Australia, US, Canada, and we settled upon Michael Pyle, an academic from the United States who'd worked building institutions before. And he was ideal for the job because he was willing to move to Bhutan with his whole family and set up shop for us. And in fact, we got a 2-for-1 because his wife is a renowned law librarian. So she became pulled into the effort too, and was now is our head of information services.
So here you can see our man in Bhutan and his wife, and someone who's very key to this project, Sangye Dorji. This man is the dean of the law school, and he is the product of administrative magic worked by Aji, worked by the princess. She spotted someone who she knew had expertise in education and also had the ability to get things done. And he was seconded to this position. And you may recognize the person standing behind him, also in this room, Joe Weiss, who is the head of White & Case's Global Citizenship and who has been playing a very important strategic role in this project as it's moved forward. You may notice something else. You may notice that we're all wearing Bhutanese national costume. And that's because in Bhutan, if you are visiting or working with public authorities and public administrations, it's compulsory to wear national dress, at least during working hours.
So now the pieces were in place. We had our man in Bhutan, we had Sangye Dorji, the Bhutanese counterpart, but there was so much work to do. Over the next 3 years, we had to set up all the pieces of a law school. It's a governing council, a board of directors that had the Attorney General and the Chief Justice on it. We had to think of the curriculum. We'll talk more about that in a few moments. We had to build a staffing plan. We had to find a place to put the school. We had to think about how do you fund it. We had, most importantly, to have Bhutanese faculty, local faculty, not just people flying in from overseas and teaching, but they weren't, no law school, no teachers. So we had to have our Bhutanese colleagues sent abroad for training to do LLMs or PhDs in law. And all that took about 3 years until we were ready to really move ahead. This is a unique factor. So Bhutanese education is fairly regimented. We took recruiting. You need students. If you have a law school, you have to have students. Our team went to every high school in the country, from east to west, 58 schools, and did these informational sessions to talk about the law school and what it's going to be and how a career could be in law. And here we see a woman in the far east of Bhutan asking a question of our team to get some excitement about the law school.
Okay, so this is something which is familiar to all of us, no matter what culture, what tradition we're part of. We developed a unique admissions procedure for the law school. And so this was based on high school grades, as you can imagine, but also an essay. Why do you want to be a law student? And especially developed Bhutan Law School admissions test, which we did with the help, pro bono of course, of the US LSAT corporation. And the important aspect of the admissions procedure was that the 50 students who were shortlisted were all invited for interview. And as a result of that interview, we boiled down the 50 to the very first class.
And here they are, the first class of Bhutanese law students, historic class, 25 students, 13 young women, 12 young men. And here, as Jackie said, every event in Bhutan has a celebration. This is the class presenting itself to Aji, the princess, the head of the law school, and they've written a song and done a dance for them that they themselves composed.
And in addition to the students performing, we had the traditional Bhutanese performers with dragon masks and archery, performing archery, which is the national sport. It was a very memorable occasion. This is a bit more formal. This is the formal photograph, indeed, of the class at the beginning of the law school's opening. This was in temporary premises, and it was in July 2017.
And this is an extraordinary photo. So this is the very opening day of the law school, and it's our faculty, 16 faculty, 11 Bhutanese, and 5 foreign full-time. How many? 6 female, 9 male. And if you look at this picture, just take a moment. It's one of those historical photos, we think, because there's Aji the princess. We have the Chief Justice there in the orange. We have the Attorney General next to him. We have the class. We have the High Court on the left, and some white-and-case people somewhere in there as well. So we had to get moving. Bhutan has no lawyers. They have an urgency for law practitioners. So we began classes with that first group in a temporary facility that Jackie mentioned. It's in the capital, and it's in this place, which is kind of a nice-looking summer camp place. And the next, please. And there's the official name next, and the buildings we're working in. And I think I'll say a few words about the curriculum. Next, please. Next slide. Here's our students. So this is a very special curriculum. It combines the best traditions of Bhutanese legal practice with a cutting-edge Western education in the basic courses. It also has a strong clinical component to get the students working with real clients, and that, of course, means pro bono is baked into it, helping people in clinics in the 4th year. There's 2 semesters in the 4th year of clinics. It also has legal ethics, legal professional responsibility, and the last year, because, again, it's all new, is devoted to an externship to get work experience. So these lawyers are, unlike certain of our counterparts in the United States, are ready to work upon graduation.
So, how did we go about constructing the law school high in the Himalayas, this law school which is on top of the world? Well, first of all, there was the selection of the place to put it. And here you can see Paro, and up in the hills is the ground selected for the law school. This is the site, very near to Bhutan's international airport. So here's the site. There was a groundbreaking ceremony, of course, in 2016. Here's the plan for what it's going to look like. And then there's a visualization. Just keep the slides coming. Then you can see the foundations, the growth of the buildings. I stood on the top there. I took pictures of these roofs. And then this is something where you can see the traditional style of architecture of Bhutan embodied in these buildings. This one is a nice picture. I was just passing by Berlin Zoo thinking, that's a kind of hybrid. This is a little bit of a hybrid because this is the main building of the law school. And so you see the traditional architecture, but you also see this very imposing entrance with classical columns. So I think it is emblematic of the institution that this is to become. This is a picture, a beautiful picture with a rainbow taken a month ago. And then this is how it looks. This comes from a photograph just 2 weeks ago. So anyone who has been involved in any form of construction, I think, would agree that to be here from a site which was virgin land in 2016 is quite remarkable.
And here we have our second class. So now it's an institution. There was a first class and now a second class with the dean and some of the professors. They're taking their law school exams literally right now as we speak in Bhutan, so have some sympathy for them. And with a little luck, the third class and this group and the previous group will be in the new building the fall of next year.
Before I talk about this photograph, I just was going to say to you, you've seen the pictures of how the building has progressed, you've seen the pictures of the temporary site, you've seen some pictures of Bhutan. do go and have a look. We have a virtual reality booth outside, and you can see some more photographs if you find the country as interesting as I hope you do. This photograph is of a woman who's a shopkeeper in Bhutan. And our hope is that the graduates of the Bhutan Law School is going to make this T-shirt irrelevant, because we hope that they are going to consolidate the new Bhutan, the rule of law in Bhutan. They are going to ensure the continued independence of the judiciary, the continuation of a free press, and to ensure the continued representation of those who have no power.
And here's the Buddha from that report from 2009 that was in scaffolding, and now it's complete. We think of this as a symbol of Bhutan's progress in rule of law and good governance and all the things we're talking about. And it was our honor to play a small role in all of that.
Thank you.